Meanwhile, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo firing back after the president claimed he had, quote, total authority to decide when the economy opens up.
The president is clearly spoiling for a fight on this issue. This is no time for politics, and it is no time to fight. If he wants a fight, he's not going to get it from me. Period. This is going to take us working together. He does not have total authority.
Chief White House correspondent John Roberts leads this hour. Nice to see you, John, in the North Lawn. Let's begin there with you.
Bill, good to see you as well. It's a bit perplexing as to what this argument is all about. Certainly, the president has got authority over border and international travel restrictions, things that are under federal control. But it is the state governors who have been issuing all of these closure and stay-at-home orders. Still, the president insisting again today that the authority to fire the starter's pistol to reopen the American economy is his, and taking aim at governors in the Northeast and West who say they are getting together on a regional basis to make plans to reopen. The president tweeting, quote, "Tell the Democrat governors that Mutiny on the Bounty was one of my all-time favorite movies. A good old-fashioned mutiny every now and then is an exciting and invigorating thing to watch, especially when the mutineers need so much from the captain. Too easy." In his daily press conference today, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo acknowledging that he has gone hat in hand to President Trump for equipment and supplies, but that he will make the decision about what to do regarding New York. Listen here.
His proclamation is that he would be king. That's what a king is. A king has total authority. That statement cannot stand.
Cuomo said that he doesn't want to have a fight with the president, will not have a fight with the president, unless, of course, the president tries to get him to do something that he doesn't think is the right thing to do from a safety and health perspective, and then he would be open to a fight with it. Bill?
John, what needs to be in place before the economy gets moving again?
I mean, there's a whole lot with this soft target date of May 1st. There's a lot that has to happen between now and then. First of all, we've got to see the infection curve really start to flatten out. And then there need to be more measures in place for rigorous testing and contact tracing. Dr. Anthony Fauci telling the AP in an interview earlier today that so far those things that are necessary to reopen the economy are not in place. In an interview with Laura Ingraham to air tonight, though, the vice president said the coronavirus task force met this morning to make sure that there will be sufficient testing and contact tracing in place. And meeting with a number of people this afternoon who have recovered from the coronavirus, President Trump saying he is getting close to issuing new guidelines to begin the process to get America back to work. Listen to what the president said.
And I'm going to be making a decision pretty quickly. And it's being done in conjunction with governors. We have tremendous support from governors. And what I do is going to be done in conjunction with governors.
So the way that it looks as though this is going to work, and again, this is part of the interview that the vice president did with Laura Ingraham, is that the president and the White House will come out with new guidelines that they will disseminate to the states. Then it will be up to the states to decide how and when to implement those guidelines. The vice president also suggesting that areas that are least hard hit by the virus would probably be the first ones to open up. It may take places like New York, Detroit, New Orleans a little bit longer to do that. The president also this afternoon, Bill, will be announcing who will be working with him on this new advisory board, I think is probably the best way to put it, to reopen America. He'll be consulting with a number of experts from a number of different sectors of medicine, the economy, business, political leaders as well, to determine where and when and how America can start to get back to work. We'll get that this afternoon.
He said that would involve governors. Waiting to hear on that if
did.
that's the case. Thank you. John Roberts from the North Lawn. Appreciate that, John. Nice to see you.